Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Mythgard in Middle-earth. My name is Corey Olsen, the Tolkien professor, joined as always by my friend Gryfflet, who's hanging out with Khôr-buri-Ghân because, you know, he's cool and can carve statuettes in like 2 seconds. So, you know, he's trying to pick up some things. We are getting ready to, I believe, we will be finishing up our time, or at least the main set of quests here in the Drúadan Forest, or at least with the Drúadan themselves, before we head off to the camp of the Rohirrim. So we are getting ready to go. Oh yeah, one other thing that's funny. So my son, my teenage son, he says to me earlier on, he says, would it be okay if I practice my drums? You know, like, is it going to mess up your stream if I practice my drums? His drum set is upstairs. And I was like, you mean... and then I realized, like, actually, you know, not only would that be okay, it would be thematic, right? Like, to be wandering around the Drúadan Forest with the sound of distant drums coming. So, yeah, I'm like, yeah, absolutely, that'll be fine. So, if you hear a thunderous rumbling, you will know that is my son practicing drums. It's not started yet, but if you hear it, that's what's happening, and which I thought that was just fun. Also, you may see the head of a small cowering dog who is less of a fan of my son practicing the drums. No, Thunderous Rumbling is not the name of his band, Drow-Snake. Actually, I have to say, they did pretty well with the name of their band. His band is named Nuclear Eternity. It's a death metal band. He is the drummer for a death metal band named Nuclear Eternity, which is a pretty good name, I think. So, anyway, yeah, he's I'm taking him out to a concert this afternoon. They're playing this afternoon, so yes. Anyhow, okay, so there, I think I just need to go back to Ghân-buri-Ghân, right? Did I do this one? Ancient words? Oh, yeah, the word pieces. Yeah, I picked up the word pieces. So I'll go back to Ghân-buri-Ghân for that, and then if I'm done with everything else, I'll then mourn the loss of Bhai-buri-Ghân at that instance there. Okay, so that's the plan. Holy cow. I never really got this close-up view of the hanging rabbit corpse there. It's just like huge in my face there for a moment. Okay. All right. So off we go to Ghân-buri-Ghân. And needless to say, I know just how to get there, being... Huh. These folks always here? Oh, I see. It's the other bridge. Oh, whatever. Hopefully I'm not actually confused. Though nothing really could be more likely. I'm pretty sure it's up here. But we'll see. Okay. Gryfflet has really enjoyed his time with the Drúadan here. My question, the thing I'm interested to see as I approach the Rohirrim camp, is going to be how... here's my suspicion. My suspicion is that we're going to get a fewer than normal number of, like, side quests in the camp in order to kind of replicate the accelerating pace of events, you know, towards the Battle of Pelennor Fields. We'll do some in order to, you know, connect with people and connect with the story and develop the storylines of the people that we met. I bet you that we're going to spend some time reconnecting with some of the people that we met in the different parts of Rohan as we went around, because it's now been a while, game time, since we did that. But we'll see. We'll see. All right, Ghân-buri-Ghân. Woo. Okay. Khôr-buri-Ghân has made an Okwó heart. I see this. I have good words. Rúd Púkel-drat has returned to Drúg. That is good words? Okay. The heart draws him a line to safety of the village. I don't understand that sentence. What is happening? Right, so the dude made a new Okwó heart, right? Yeah. Okay. And then your good words are that Rúd Púkel-drat has returned. The heart draws him a line to safety of the village. Right. Okay. Following you now. That so because Rúd Púkel-drat was the guy who was running away from the nameless things, and he's come back, which return Ghân-buri-Ghân is linking to the making of the new heart. Okay. So tracking now. Thank you, Ghân-buri-Ghân. Go speak with Rúd Púkel-drat. He come back to Drúg. Bring Rúd Púkel-drat the Okwó heart. Right? He is wise Drúadan and always has good thoughts. They come to him from the hearts of the ancients. Okay, and so if I bring him one of the hearts of the ancients... No, it's not one of the hearts of the ancients. You mean your ancestors, or... Okay. Right, anyway. Glade of the Three Merrymakers? Oh, that's a really excellent quest name, too. Okay. All right. So... I just have to speak with him. I wonder where he is. Okay, I think he's down where I came from. Look at this. I'm so confident about navigating around this village that I'm going to do it on horseback. Because, you know, that's just a reflection of how confident I am. Wah! I almost ran off the path. So I am not saying that I can navigate effectively. Like, that is not Rivendell the Bridges. But, at least as I'm falling off and running into trees, I know which trees they are. That's what I'm saying. Okay. So I was suspecting that he's here. Am I right about that? Is he down by the river? Ha ha! Ho ho! Oh, yeah, look at this nice little... This is cozy. Okay, hey, Rúd Púkel-drat. You hand the mysterious Okwó heart to Rúd Púkel-drat. He looks it over. Very, very good. This heart beats strong. You a good heart. Sorry I run away from Hobbit. I thought you were Dheghûn. Now I have plan. Okwó protected Drúadan, but many broken. Some in pieces, others just not work. I have thought to fix the Okwó, who just not work. Need your help. Come with me. Okay. Let's go. We're going to fix them.
Rúd Púkel-drat, a wise Drúadan, leads you to a sacred grove of Púkel-man statues in order to ward away the mysterious beasts that invade the Drúadan Forest.
Who's narrating? It's one of the things I'm always kind of interested in the different phases of the game. I don't recognize. I'm not placing the voice. Is it a Gondorian voice? Oh, off we go. You're done kicking the air. I don't. Was it Ghân-buri-Ghân? This is Luke Kakat, sacred place. Okay. Place of joy and worship of Okwó. All right. That's interesting. Worship. Drúadan bring corpses of Gorgoon we slay to this place. Oh, yeah, I've been here. Yeah, I saw the corpses. That's a really interesting, you know, mode of reverence. Must perform ritual to cleanse this place of Dheghûn. Okay. Sure, I will keep watchful eye. Hidden glade must be very sacred place. Okay, keeping watchful eye. I'm on lookout. Okay, so here we go. We're fighting off Dheghûn, who are attempting to thwart the ritual. So here's what I was thinking. The concept of worship strikes me as interesting. So on the one hand, certainly the Púkel-men statues, as they're described in the book, do resemble, sort of like, totem statues, as if they were involved, in some kind of religious, had some sort of religious significance. And Tolkien even, the way that he describes them suggests that that's, one possible explanation for them, right? That is, if you just go by the text of the Lord of the Rings, if you just go by like the odd description of the Púkel-men, like the way, or rather, the odd description, AWED, of Mary, like of Dunharrow, when Mary is describing Dunharrow. Or rather, when Dunharrow is being described from Mary's point of view, then you can see again that sort of connection is suggested there. But that's just a theory, right? When you that's just in order to describe the impression of, again, Mary's experience as he's coming into this strange new place. Have we run out of Dheghûn? What's going on? Do I have to hunt him down? Weird. Anyway, the thing is, there he is. The thing is that if you then read the essay on the Drúadan that Tolkien wrote later, you find that the Púkel-men, in fact, have a quite different significance. The story of the Faithful Stone suggests not that they are, religious totems, but that they are extensions of the carvers themselves. That's I find that a really interesting shift, and it's another sort of example. You'll remember just a couple weeks ago, I was talking about this phenomenon, right? About how I was talking about it in the context of the Palantiri, about how Tolkien's sort of later world building development, it's never, or at least very, very rarely, actively inconsistent with the text of the Lord of the Rings, right? It's rarely a matter of actually contradicting or altering what the text says, but it doesn't always continue going in the same direction. Like, there is often evidence of a kind of a shifting in his ideas about those things. I think we can see that clearly in his discussion of the operation of the Palantiri. Again, he's careful to, in fact, he explicitly in the essay on the Palantiri explains the events of the Lord of the Rings from within this kind of new framework of how his understanding of how they work, right? So he's careful to do that, and yet, again, it seems to me to push in quite a different direction. Same thing with the Púkel-men statue. So here, in this LOTRO quest, the way that the Aquo Kuryu are being discussed here is more in line with the kind of atmospheric descriptions that we get in the Lord of the Rings itself, in the Return of the King, than it is with the later developments that we get in the Drúadan, in the essay on the Drúadan and the story of the Faithful Stone. But anyway, okay. All right, Rúd Púkel-man. And by the way, of course, that's perfectly understandable, right? That the LOTRO people would make that choice. I just find it really interesting. Okay. The Aquo Kuryu are awake again.
And do not return.
That's right. Their hearts beat like sap through a Dheghûn. That's good. That's good. Balance has come back to Luk Kakat. Let us return. All right, let's return. No problem. So these are the three merrymakers, huh? Well, they do look pretty cheerful. Oh, right. I've talked to you again. Oh, you think Drûg will like this? Okay, well, we'll bring the news back. Whoa. You dropped me in a random place. So this is like a test of my navigation, right? How well do you know the town? If we put you in a totally random place, can you remember where you are? Of course I can. Look at this. All right, so I have to speak with him again. Okay, great. Yep, can do. I wasn't sure if it was going to send me back to Khôr-buri-Ghân or something. He may do now. All right. The ancients look down upon us.
Fall from the mountain.
Even in darkness and cold, I let them guide me further still. There is more to be done. Okay. Let's do more. We know Dheghûn can be driven back to unknown. Find them. Hang on a second. That's not Dheghûn, it's a DH. So is it actually Dheghûn? Dheghûn? Yeah, it probably is. They love their, voiced fricatives. Okay. Find them, send them back. Okay. Well, I just defeated, almost that many of them. Okay. And this is the only one that's sending me out in the forest. Yeah. Well, okay, right. There are plenty of them. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, because again, and this is really interesting. I was thinking about this. So when I was at Mythmoot this past year, in June, which was wonderful, as always. When I was at Mythmoot this past year, I was able to sit in on Matt Cannon and Chad Bornhalt's Tengwar tutorial session again. It was really fun. And I was reflecting on something that the Dheghûn thing reminded me of just now. And that is, so they're talking about Matt was explaining about the different modes of Tengwar. And that seems really complicated. Why should the different letters, essentially, right, of the Tengwar script mean different sounds in different modes? When you use Tengwar to represent Quenya, why should the same letter equal a different sound? Why do you have to memorize a whole different set of sounds, basically, when it's in Quenya compared to when it's in Sindarin, say? It's I could easily imagine people thinking like, well, that's unnecessarily complicated. And of course, what Matt was explaining is that that's actually perfectly normal, right? We do this all the time with our alphabet as well. I'm just gonna ride down here to that easier access to that purple patch down there. He was pointing out we do this all the time, right? When you're speaking in English and when you're speaking in Spanish, you're using the same letters from the Latin alphabet, but many of them, not all, but many of them they mean different sounds. They stand for different sounds, right? You think about the letter J, right? You think about the letter L, the letters LL, right? And those letters stand for different sounds in Spanish mode, right, than they do in English mode. It's very similar. Yeah, JJ, exactly as you were saying. Here's the point. Here's why I'm bringing this up. Here's what was making me think of that just now. Tolkien's pronunciation charts at the back of The Lord of the Rings. Tolkien has deliberately not done this. He's done it with... Whoops. Sorry, hang on a second. I gotta dismount. Gotta stealth myself, so I don't really need to fight any spiders today. Okay, so what I am doing is looking out for, and of course I went to the one part of the woods that do not, in fact, have any Dheghûn in them. Anyway, so the pronunciation key in the back of The Lord of the Rings is modeless, like it's mode-free. Tolkien, of course, has introduced different sound patterns into the different, languages that we see, so you can hear the difference between Quenya and Sindarin and Khûzdul, and even, the name, like the names, and therefore some hint of the language, of the Drúadan and things like that, right? You can hear the differences, and yet he has made he is deliberately simplified for the sake of his readers, the pronunciation. He could have, in some ways, you could say should have used different modes in the same way, right? But he's not. What he's done is he's essentially made his The Lord of the Rings is theoretically a translation, right? And in this way, he has literally made it into a translation where... All right, let's go this way. He has literally made it into a translation where he is rendering into one single and consistent mode of letter that is of literal representation, literally, right? All of the languages, so that once you get into your head the pronunciation guide, oh, that's a deer. I thought that was a Dheghûn. Almost as dangerous, but not quite the same. Once you get the pronunciation guide in your head, he has given you, through how he has transliterated everything into English, the key to being able to pronounce correctly all of his languages. That's how I can feel confident that it must be Dheghûn, because it's DH. In every, no matter what language it's representing in the text, DH means the voiced TH sound, like that and this. So I think that is a fun and obviously deliberate on Tolkien's part choice, right? He has actually gone out of his way to simplify things. It's almost like a teacherly move, you know. I don't want to go down this cliff because it might be hard to get back. Well, who am I kidding? I'm totally get a mithril coin out of here whenever I leave anyhow, so. But anyway, I think that's pretty fun, and I mean I've noticed this many times, but I was just kind of I don't know, realizing and appreciating the significance of that here today for the first time. Hang on a second. I know I'm going away from the Dheghûn here, but man, look at this huge ruin, this huge edifice next to the trail. Well, road. It's not just a trail, right? It's a paved road. Between the quarry. Wonder what this is. Was, I mean. Not a house. Not a fortress. Headquarters of the mining company? Right? Like the sort of, rather than setting up their like the local headquarters of the mining company. Yeah, I mean, it could be a kind of way station. It certainly could serve in that way. I'm also imagining it could be like a sort of checkpoint, not a government checkpoint necessarily, like a customs house or something, but yeah. So like if that were like a local headquarters of the mining outfit that was running the quarry down there, which could have been a government outfit conceivably. That would be a good place for them to, like, you know, inspect and inventory things as they come up without having to slow things down at the quarry itself, or it's on the only road back to town, you know. So, all right, I'm going on the cliff after all. Glad I went that way though. Okay. Come on, Dheghûn. Kind of dislike wandering the countryside looking for things. Looking for particular mobs in the midst of the mobs. Yeah, kind of a supply place, spare wheels and such. Yeah, that would be useful partway along that road. All right, let me get a lore question while I'm just randomly hunting. Let's see. Let's go answer one of my Bill Stickers questions. In the Houses of Healing, Aragorn uses Athelas. Is this what heals the people, or rather the Elessar, which is said to have great healing powers? Well, Bill Stickers, funny you should mention that in the context of the conversations I've just been having about Tolkien's world building and making post-Lord of the Rings changes that significantly affect narrative and all that kind of thing, because the Elessar is certainly another classic example of this, right? So in case you're not familiar with what Bill Stickers is asking about, in Unfinished Tales, Christopher published a man, come on, where are these things? It would be nice to have some like concentrations. Yeah, I know they can be found anywhere through that region, but Are there somewhere where they're more likely to be found? For crying out loud. I guess I'll just keep wandering about, hoping for the best. Anyway, in Unfinished Tales, Christopher published some of Tolkien's later writings, in which he was having fun speculating about how it's the center of all wood trolldom here. This is what I'm talking about. Can you lead me to the center of all Dheghûndom? That would sure be handy. Anyway, so he was doing a bunch of speculation about the Elessar, about the stone, which the stone, Aragorn's stone, the green stone, which is like super important and everything, according to Aragorn, and needs to be mentioned for Eärendil and such. So, okay. I'm trying to figure out how to approach this. Let's approach it chronologically. It is, in the Lord of the Rings, we are told that it is predicted. Tell you what I'm going to do? It tells me I can find them down at the quarry. I haven't been to the quarry. And there are quest rings for this down at the quarry. So I'm going to take that as a hint. Yeah, there we go. Phil was suggesting the same thing. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to head to the quarry because I'm not 100% positive that I'm going to get quarry quests, quarry-related quests from the Rohirrim anyway. Maybe I will, but I'm not 100% sure that I will. So, let's go explore there. Because why not? And maybe the Dheghûn like it down there. The quest rings do give a little hint in that regard. Exactly. I'm going to take it as a sign, like Aragorn would. Anyhow, so, okay, speaking of Aragorn. So in The Lord of the Rings, we are told that it is predicted that he would be given the name Elessar, that he would rule under the name Elessar, that Elessar is what he's going to be called. Okay. Actually, hang on a second. I'm on a road. I'm going to Warsteed. Okay, so it's predicted he's going to be called Elessar. He's given the Elessar. Galadriel gives him the Elessar. Gives him an elfstone, right? The green gem that she pins on his chest, right? In Lothlorien in the gift giving. And we see, and he's wearing it. And when he comes to the houses of healing, it's noted, right? And you remember that Ioreth, wise woman of Gondor, according to Gandalf, calls him that, the Lord Elfstone, right? So she sort of names him that. And the Lord of the Rings kind of makes a big deal of the fact, that is the narrator of the Lord of the Rings, makes a big deal of the fact that Aragorn is being spontaneously given the nickname, as a nickname, the name that it was prophesied that he would bear, Elessar. Okay, so the fact that it's his name, so there are several, like, kind of points that come together. I will list these points sort of as I'll kind of, bring them together, the kind of the relevant bits that happen or that we can see during the course of the Lord of the Rings. 1, Aragorn makes a big deal out of the fact that Eärendil has a green stone on his chest in Bilbo's poem, right? Bilbo says it's the only thing Aragorn actually cared about. when he was helping Bilbo with his poem. We know that he gets the green gem from Galadriel, and seems like a big deal, especially in the context of you know, her connection to Arwen and Aragorn's engagement and all that kind of thing. Oh, this is what I'm talking about right here. Anyway, okay. Great. So, and then the Houses of Healing reference, right? When he comes in and, you know, and they start calling him Elfstone. That's a big deal. And of course, while he's in the Houses of Healing, that's when he heals people like Faramir and Éowyn, right? And the hands of the king are the hands of a healer. So his name, his Elfstone name, is at least indirectly connected with his healing, right? At least sort of circumstantially connected with his healing of folks. And also, you know, it forms part of this, like, triangle, right? Between, like, Aragorn himself, the Elfstone that he wears, and the hands of the king are the hands of a healer, right? Like, his identity, his future identity as king is, like, embodied in the stone, which is going to be his name, and the healing that he does there is the proof of his kingship, right? Of his kingly identity. So yeah, all those things kind of work together, if you see what I mean. Okay, so back to Unfinished Tales now. So after this, Tolkien is thinking about the Elessar. He's like, this Elfstone, this thing which is almost literally identified with Aragorn's kingship, right? I mean, it is his royal name. Tolkien gets to thinking more about it. And we see him do this with a whole bunch of things. Sometimes with things, sometimes with characters, like Galadriel, you know, who come up in the Lord of the Rings, and afterwards, as he's kind of looking at what happened in the story, he's, you know, he says to himself, man, okay, this seems like kind of a big deal, you know? I bet there's more of a story there, right? This is what happened with the Drúadan. This is where we get all those extra stories about the Drúadan in the first and second ages and things like that, right? It all comes through these sorts of reflections. The Palantiri, right? All of these things, keep in mind, were also things that he had not invented before. These were all things that emerged in the writing of The Lord of the Rings, including Galadriel's character itself. So many of these things which he discovered, to use his word, during the process of writing The Lord of the Rings, he spent some time thinking about afterwards. What are they really? What do they mean? And side note, I really like how they have the tall pines growing on the shelves, right? So you can see how, you know, the quarriers were cutting these large stones, and so you have this shelving action that you always see in quarries like this. But you can see that it was thousands of years ago, because now there are these very large pines that have grown up on those shelves. So there's been a lot of time has passed. It's cool. All right, and I love the big blocks that are just sitting there, the smoothed off blocks. You get the sense of things being interrupted here. This is also, because it's just, these were just designed to be like temporary scaffolding, that the Gondorians threw up to help with their quarrying. And most of them are still standing after thousands of years of neglect, right? Though some of them are kind of decrepit, right? That's how it looks after several thousand years. It's amazing. It's a really cool thing. Okay. Anyway, let's go back to Púkel-man. Okay. So he comes back to the Elessar, to the green stone, and he's like, he sees this pattern. The stone itself, he thinks, needs to be important, not just a symbol, not just jewelry that's given to him by Galadriel. He begins to say, what if that stone is itself an artifact? What if the elf stone is the elf stone, is the Elessar, is some significant... What if the Elessar is a whole thing, right? And so he begins to speculate as to what that might be. If so, where would it have come from? Who would have made it? What would be its history? And of course, this is in part connected to the fact that Galadriel was gaining in stature as he was thinking about Galadriel more, right? A lot of the ideas about who Galadriel is as a character and what her history was all emerge after the writing of the Lord of the Rings, because he didn't know anything about her at all when he discovered her in the writing of the Lord of the Rings. This other little side note is one of the things that is a real challenge when people are like watching the Rings of Power and saying that's not like the Galadriel from the Lord of the Rings. Well, no, the Galadriel from the Lord of the Rings, all of his thinking about Galadriel happens after the Lord of the Rings, right? So if you just go by what he says in the Lord of the Rings, no, there's very little about Galadriel. In fact, she's a very static character. But because it's the only glimpse we get of her. We get some view of her history. We get some ideas about her character and who she is. But what her history was and where she came from and all these other things are all things that Tolkien is contemplating after the fact. Back to the OSR in a minute. Rúd Púkel-man. Let's.
I am worried of the shadows.
Yes, they retreat very, very good. Strong like Dhurgoth you are. Oh, well, thank you. Appreciate
I am worried of the
I
shadows.
fear Dheghûn comes not from afar, but from below. I tell you a story now. Great. The ground shook before Gurthus fell ill. Okay, so before the wood trolls were corrupted, there was an earthquake. The ground shook. The shaking frightened many. Those on north side of Drûbuta felt more shaking. North of Drûbuta is old cave of men, where they dug into mountain. Drúadan not happy with men for attacking nature, but Drúadan not here to fight men. We are from same blood. Go to old place of men in Drúadan Forest. There might find answers. I follow when ready. Oh, yes. Nardal Quarry? I know just where to find that. Hang on a second. Did I? I didn't, did I? I didn't milestone. No, I didn't. Okay. No problem. Well, I've got lots more to say about the OSR anyway. Okay. Okay, so stories about the oops, I missed the gateway. I'm Rivendelling the arches. So Tolkien starts thinking about the OSR, and so he does what he always does, which is connecting the dots within his story itself, right? What would be if the Elessar were, in fact, an artifact of power made by the elves, and not just a piece of jewelry? What would it be? What would its powers be? What would fit? What would make sense? And so what does he answer himself? He answers himself, well, he goes back to the scene where the elf stone and its connection to Aragorn's kingly identity, they're really two places, right, in the text where those things are emphasized. One, of course, is in the gift from Galadriel, but the other is in the Houses of Healing. So he decides that the Elessar is an artifact that was designed for healing, not just the healing of bodies, but the renewal, almost like what Sam's dirt does for the Shire at the end. It can renew like an entire region. So it becomes connected not just to the hands of the king or the hands of a healer, but also to, the name, Envinyatar, the renewer, that Aragorn says he is going to be, predicts he's going to be given when he renews the line of the kings. Anyway, so that's so Tolkien finds in the text these kind of core ideas being associated with the Elessar, and he's like, okay, there it is. Okay, the core has been abandoned. There are signs of recent activity. Okay. Oh, and I've got to defeat more dudes here? Okay. I have indeed defeated foes. Meanwhile, where's the... oh, it's down t'other end, is it? All right, I'll head down that direction. Well, I guess I ought to kill folks on the way down. Okay. So that's what Tolkien decides, right? But this decision... oh, and of course, by the way, what does he decide is the background? Who made it? Who made the Elessar? Celebrimbor made the Elessar, he decides. And in fact, it was the stuff about... it was the thinking and writing that he did about the Elessar, which led him to write the whole love triangle scene. That's what led to the love triangle scene. If you didn't know, this is the one writing. It's the only place where it exists, but this is where the idea of a love triangle between Celebrimbor and Celeborn and Galadriel came in. It's not a love triangle in any kind of scandalous sense. It's just like Celebrimbor was in love with Galadriel, because like everybody's in love with Galadriel, and he totally wanted to marry Galadriel, but she chose Celeborn for reasons. And he, Celebrimbor, totally not bitter or anything. They get it. He gets it. They're all very elvish about this. I can't... that's not a ramp. I can walk up. But I can get stuck under it. Fine. Fine. I'll fight the both of you. Anyway. So in his later writings, he decides that Aragorn's green stone is the Elessar of Celebrimbor, who gave it to Galadriel because he still likes her, and she uses it like part of the... he basically retcons Lothlorien to be not just the product of her Ring of Power. Yes, her Ring of Power is like involved in what's happening there. In Lothlorien. That's why it's such a little bubble there, right? But it also was the LSR itself that led to the great enrichment of Lothlórien, which implies, by the way, that it might possibly be, at least partially, the Sam's box might actually be partly, indirectly, connected with the LSR itself by the same reasoning, right? If this kind of blessing of restoration and, fertility and such that comes through the LSR, that was characteristic of Lothlórien, comes through the LSR, and that blessing is like what is being bestowed on the Shire through the box of dirt that Galadriel gives Sam. Then it stands to reason that it might be partially responsible for that too. Anyway, so none of this is to do a singular thing to answer Bill Sticker's excellent question. All it does is explain the terms of the question, right? So, back to Bill Sticker's actual question, which was, in the Houses of the Healing, Aragorn uses Athelas. Is this what heals the people, or rather the LSR, which is said to have great healing powers? All of the above, right? We don't know the answer to this question, right? I mean, we don't know the answer to this question, especially because when the Lord of the Rings is written, right? Oh wait, I have to go find him now. Where is he? He's way up there. Okay. All right. When the Lord of the Rings is written, he hadn't thought about any of this stuff with the OSR yet, right? So it's really hard to say. But what we can say is there seem to have been several things at work there in the healings that are done, like the healing of Faramir and Éowyn and Merry. There are several things at work. There's the Athelas, which we know is in fact effective against the Black Breath. It's not like Athelas it's all, a scam or something. Like, Athelas is real, like it actually works. So there's the Athelas, that's one factor. There's also Aragorn's own authority. The hands of the king are the hands of a healer, right? And this is particularly emphasized with Faramir, right? Why is Faramir's spirit able to return from where it has gone wandering? In his own words, Faramir's own words, right? You called, I came. Who would sit idle when the king has returned, right? It is Aragorn's will that brings Faramir back. So you've got the Athelas, the will and authority of Aragorn. The hands of the king are the hands of a healer. But also, apparently, according to Tolkien's later speculations, the gem that he's wearing on his chest is like a elvish uber gem, right? I'm not suggesting that Athelas is the Middle-earth placebo effect, JJ. That's exactly what I'm trying to avoid. So all three of those things are apparently operative, right? And so it's one of the things that I find interesting about this later speculation of Tolkien's. There's a lot that I love about it. I mean, it's really fun. It's really fun thinking. I like the effect that it has on the story of Celebrimbor and Gondolin. There's more. There are different versions. Like, he has a couple. Being Tolkien, right? He didn't think of just one story for the OSR. He thought of like 2 or 3, and didn't totally decide among them. But anyway, all of that stuff is fun. The Galadriel backstory is fun. But I don't entirely love the effect when we take all that speculation and we kind of put it back into the Lord of the Rings story. I don't love all of the effects that it has on that story. Kind of like what I was saying about the Palantiri. I don't love the effect that has when we put it back into the story. I strongly don't love that when it comes to the Palantiri, but I don't love it with the LSR either. More on that in a second. I'm leaving poor Drûg Drûadan hanging. You found an unnatural hole. You found unnatural hole in mountain. Very, very bad place. I feel darkness choking the trees here. Okay. Dheghûn come from darkness. They bring shadow to nature, slowly killing sacred forest. You must help. Go in cave. Stop Dheghûn. Dheghûn very, very bad. Okay. Oh, this is an instance? Okay, yeah, we're headed in. Okay. Yes, there are multiple LSR at various points.
Has led you to an old mining chasm in Nodal Quarry. You should search the caverns for the source of these mysterious beasts.
That's Khôr-buri-Ghân's voice? Okay. All right, find the source of the Dheghûn and defeat yet another 10 spot of Dheghûn. I will. Do I get a Dheghûn Slayer deed or something? Okay. All right. So interesting. This is an active mine. It's not just a cave. It's an unnatural hole. So so what I'm being told is that the Gondorians dug too greedily and too deep and woke the nameless fear here. Anyway, okay. So back to what I was saying. I don't love the effect that it has on the text, because when I go back to the text now, when I do precisely what Bill Stickers is inviting me to do, and I take the later writings on the LSR, and I go back and I look at the scene in the Houses of Healing with that stuff in mind, right? I apply those things. The result, in my mind, is a little disappointing. Yeah, it's cool that Aragorn's stone is this, big first stage deal, right? That's cool. But the net effect for me, in my mind, the net effect is to diminish Aragorn, ultimately, right? I prefer the story merely being that Aragorn heals Faramir and Éowyn and Merry because of his authority as king, like Atheros plus his authority, that was enough for me. I was cool with that. Like, it even seems to me potentially to kind of undermine the hands of the king are the hands of a healer, and so might the rightful king be known, right? Well, the brooch of a king is the brooch of a healer, apparently, right? It's almost like any idiot carrying that stone, who had that stone pinned on his chest, would have been able to heal everybody in the room, right? And that's an exaggeration, right? And of course, any idiot wouldn't have that stone pinned on his chest. So it's not like I don't think it's horrible, but that's why I don't love it. That's why I don't love it, because I don't like the additional explanation. I find that its effect, not its effect, like its total effect in general, but just its effect on that moment in the story is, I don't, as I say, I don't love it. Oh, I'm lagging here. Come on now. We can do it. Okay. Okay. So to answer Bill Sticker's question, is the Athelas what heals the people, or rather the OSR? My answer would be neither. It's Aragorn. It's Aragorn's will, primarily. Hands of the king or the hands of a healer. That is the coolest fulfillment of that destiny. And by combining that prophecy, you know, that saying of old that Eorth quotes, the hands of the king or the hands of a healer, by combining that with, you know, and his name shall be Elfstone, and his people shall know him by, you know, the name Elfstone. You know, 1 + 1 is like less than 2, you know, in my mind anyway, when it comes to that. So anyway, my own internal adaptation, right? The story as it plays in my head when I am reading that passage is definitely that it is not just the power of the gem that he has pinned to his chest that is leading to the healing of the people. It is his it's who he is. It is Aragorn's own stature and will in that moment, especially in that moment and in that place. He is the king who will return, and who is returning now to Minas Tirith after so many years. And think also of the way in which I've talked about this at different times in the past. Location matters, right? That is the concept of someone having a center of their power, where their own personal power is more operative, right? Sauron's at the Cracks of Doom, Saruman's in Orthanc, even the hobbits in the Shire. Location matters. And Aragorn has, the returning king has come to his place of power. Man, these caves are more intricate than I had hoped. But it's all right. Yeah, and so a large organic bulb pulses. That sounds unsettling. No good has ever come from a large organic bulb, right? Anyway, so yes, as I say, I really like to think that it is Aragorn the king returned to the center of his destined power that is able, like, that's my favorite answer to the question. That he has the OSR, you know, again, like, it's kind of, not that the LSR stuff isn't cool. It's just, to me, not as cool. So it's, the problem is not that they discovered an ancient creature of unexpected power and evil lurking in the bottom of the caves in which they were delving after it had fled from its stronghold of old, but rather that this pustule opened up. Destroying. Lancing pustule. Oh no! Unknown horde. Yikes! Okay. Good grief. Holy cow. I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. Okay. You can do this, Gryfflet. You can totally do this. You've got this, Gryfflet. Oh, yeah. Okay. No problem. Yes. I think so. Okay. Have we met the beater of the drums? Have we lanced the pustule of evil? Oh, that's got to be the title of today's show, Phil, right? Gryfflet lances the pustule of evil. I think that's a given. And can I say how proud I am that I came straight without... Maybe there wasn't in fact another path to go on, and those aren't side paths, but I like to think I skillfully navigated the maze straight to the end. Okay, there does seem to be another earth shake happening here. Run quick, the ground shake. I was also noticing the same thing. The beast defeated. Yes, sir.
Footsteps in the
I saw with my eyes all you have done. You are very, very good, Hobbit. Let us return to Drûg and speak with Khôr-buri-Ghân of the good story we share. Agreed. Let's do so without fighting any unnecessary elder Dheghûn. To destroy darkness, we must wear shadow. You have seen Maw of Darkness and live to tell story. We leave now? Totally. Okay. Do I go to Ghân-buri-Ghân? Yes, I do. Ghân-buri-Ghân. Off we go. All right. So, the men of Gondor dug too greedily and too deep and woke the nameless fear, which did have a name. What was it again? Guthrach the Ravenous. Okay. When did they do that, I wonder? Like ages ago? This is not at all where I wanted to go. Not that I took a wrong turn, because I know this village like the back of my hand. But that's just, yeah, not the direction I thought I was going in. Oh, I see. I got dropped into the different path. Here, I thought I'd been dropped up on this path again. But no, I was dropped down on the other path. Okay. Yeah, so do any of you remember, did I miss something? It sounded like they, the Drúadan, were suggesting that the corruption of the wood trolls, you know, and the emergence of evil, was a recent phenomenon. Not something that happened, like, prior to the fall of Gondor. Well, not the fall of Gondor, but, you know, its decline. Like from the... Oh, I don't ever remember being inside my horse in the same way. Okay. You tell Ghân-buri-Ghân your tale of the Guthrach, the ancient beast you defeated onto the mountain. Ghân-buri-Ghân lets out a mighty laugh that echoes across the valley. I knew you, friend to Drúadan. You more helpful to Drúadan than any outsider who ever visit these woods. This is a good day, and a story no one Drúadan will forget. Fantastic. Gryfflet, I make you Drúadan in name if you like. All you do is perform rite of passage. First bring me rocks from Old Men Quarry. Okay. Will do. I get a title? Friend of the Drúadan. Seriously? Seriously. Friend of the Drúadan. Like the rep title is all I get? I mean, that's cool and everything, but like an intermediate rep title? Not gonna lie, I'm disappointed by that title. I'm going to be named an honorary druid, an honorary Drûg, man. Yeah, I thought they were talking about a relatively recent earthquake too. In which case, okay, back to Nardal Quarry. So I solved my no quests sending me to the Nardal Quarry problem, for sure. Exactly, Drowsnake. That is precisely the title I want. Gryfflet, Drûg Lord. Yes. Yes, indeed. Or even Drûg Dealer. I would take Drûg Dealer. Right? Dealer in Drûgs. Dealer with Drûgs. For sure. Yeah, but like friend to the Drúadan, I mean, it's not that I don't like being a friend to the Drúadan. I'm honored and such, but come on. Drûg Lord. That would have been awesome. Okay. So did you guys notice how I knew the fastest way to get to the quarry from there? Because I know this village like the back of my hand. You can't imagine why Standing Stone would have any problems with giving people the title Drûg Lord. You don't think anybody would have objected to that? Oh, come on. So Drûgs, D-R-U with a circumflex, G, is of course one of the names that Tolkien gave to the Drúadan. And the puns, come on. It's just gold. It's just gold. You think Middle-earth Enterprises might have had a few words to say on the matter? Well, Druid's Fire, all I can say is that then Middle-earth Enterprises should have had a few words with Tolkien, who is the one who used the name. Whose fault is that? And I know, the point is that, yes, Tolkien did use the name, but he only used the name. It's only there in Unfinished Tales, and so therefore not part of the official license, etc., etc. Yeah. I know. Doesn't mean it wouldn't be cool. I like how I'm going after all of the little hobbit-sized quarry stones. I was hoping that I would be hauling off some of these big, huge blocks, like 10 of them, in my pockets, because, hey, I used to have a megalithic statue of Elendil in my pocket, so why not? It really puts a delightful new spin on what have I got in my pockets. Okay. Let's see. I'm trying to see if I can collect all the quarry stones without fighting any more Dheghûn, because I'm good. I've met my quota for the day. Oh. Hark, do you hear the distant drumming? I don't know if you can hear the distant drumming. The distant drumming has now begun, officially. Okay, let's see. That means I have a slightly perturbed puppy off to my side, who may, if the drumming becomes more intense, as it is wont to do, being that, as I mentioned, my son is the drummer for a heavy metal band. Ow. Darn it. You broke my streak, Dheghûn. Yeah. Good grief. Sorry, I thought this guy was dead. I wasn't even paying attention. I was like reading the chat. Okay. Alright. That guy was just about exactly as annoying as he could possibly be. He like poisoned me and such. Okay. Alright. More stones to quarry. How many do I need more? 5 more? Okay. Alright, hang on a second. Okay. Here's the puppy. Hello, Pixie. Oh. Gotta get Pixie's little platform here. Okay, here we go. Pillow on lap. Dog on pillow. There we go. Okay. Yes. The puppy, not a fan of drum practicing time. Okay. We'll just keep wandering around looking for little stones. Little stones, I say, though they're each like, you know, easily 500 pounds. It's all good. Gryfflet can carry a functionally unlimited number of stones. Uh-oh. This guy's a little close to that quarry stone. I hope he doesn't wander this way. Well, that's fun, Dress Snake. Says his girlfriend has never read the Silmarillion, but he read her Huon versus Wolf Sauron passage and she loved it. What's not to love? Huon the Hound is the best. Tolkien was such a dog guy. Okay. What I'm really curious about is what these quarry stones have to do with my title. Why gathering them is a prerequisite to, like, are they going to make a little statue of me? Is there going to be a little Púkel hobbit? Because that would be awesome. Okay. Bring the rocks. Okay, we're bringing the rocks. How can you become a Drûg Lord without first becoming stoned? Okay, that's your theory. Gotcha. First step you done. Now you have the permission of Drúadan to rebuild Aquo Curio that I tell you where it is in forest. Go rebuild Aquo Curio. Then I will look over it. Then it will then look over you. I see. I need like my own Púkel person. Right? So this isn't... Okay, gotcha. Where are we going? Oh, okay. All right. Can do. Can I just say, there's the faintest whiff of hypocrisy that I'm finding I dislike in this particular quest of Khôr-buri-Ghân's. Okay, right, sorry. Briefly disoriented, but since I know this village like the back of my hand, I know just where I'm going. What I mean is, okay, they were complaining, or at least I've already forgotten his name. Something Drûadan, right? The guy I was doing the Dheghûn quests with. He was suggesting that the quarrying of the men was unnatural, that they were doing harm to the land by quarrying the stone there in the quarry. Though, and presumably, the Púkel-men are made with some kind of local stone, right? So he's sending me down to the quarry to get quarry stone from the unnatural, violating the balance of nature quarry in order to build the Púkel-man. Like, doesn't that seem wrong somehow? Do you see what I mean about, like, whiff of hypocrisy there, right? Like, it's Rúd Pulo Drat, thank you. Yeah, I would not think that they would be making their they would be building their Púkel-men with that stone. Certainly not requiring it to be built with that stone. Unless you want to argue. Oh, I see. We're going back to the place where I met Rúd Pulo Drat in the first place. Where I was, like, sort of discovering the Dheghûn, though I'd already seen them tons of times. Anyway, I think that's where I'm going. Oh, yeah. Sure enough. Okay, so you could suggest that the place where the Nardal Quarry was formed is where they would always have gotten the stone. They just wouldn't have done it that way, you know what I mean? And the tunneling, the mining, too greedily and too deep was the problem. You look at the Púkel-man statue and realize it is a sign of true friendship between you and the Drúadan. As you look away from the statue, you thought you saw the Púkel-man statue move slightly. Again, you look back, but it remains motionless. Perhaps you just need some rest after this long adventure. Perhaps so. Okay, what do we want? Agility, huh? I think so. I think so. Mender of the Grey Wood. Man, I was going to use the Drúadan title too, but it's just too lame. I'm too disappointed. All right, that's it. So, oh man, I can't. Oh, all right, I gotta go back the long way. I gotta go back to the village one more time so I can mourn the loss of Bhai-buri-Ghân. And then I'm completely done. All right. So exciting. See, again, notice how even that implication there, that is the implication that the Púkel-man statue was moving, but it's obviously wholly independent of me, not to mention the fact that I, as a hobbit, am definitively not a Drûg, and so therefore wouldn't be able to establish the connection between myself and the Púkel-man statues. So it's just another example of how they, that is Standing Stone folks, have chosen to develop an entirely different concept of the Púkel-man statues. So what is that concept? Let's try to build that story. Instead of just me talking about the essay on the Drúadan all the time, which, as I keep discussing, it's clear they're not using. And by the way, that has nothing to do with their rights. Yes, they only have rights to The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. That does not mean that they cannot make decisions that are informed by the knowledge of unfinished tales. It's much less restrictive than that. They don't have to pretend like they've never read unfinished tales, nor are they in any way obligated. Like when Tolkien has come up with other stories, with other stories and backstories and things that are only in unfinished tales, are they obligated to make up an entirely different backstory because they can't use that one? Like, that's not how it works. One of the clearest illustrations of this, by the way, okay, I think it's up here, isn't it? If I go straight ahead, up the hill, and then there'll be a place up here where I can make a turn. No? No. Okay. I don't remember exactly how to get there. No, it's over here and then... go uphill. I haven't been to this part of the town very often. Go up here and take a right. Yes, this is the intersection I was looking for. Yes. Yes. Okay. Back of my hand. Anyway, a good illustration of how this works. A good illustration of how this works is in the Battle of the Fords of Isen, right? The sequencing and shape, the whole narrative of the Battle of at the Fords of Isen in LOTRO follows the pattern of the battle as it's described in some detail in Unfinished Tales, and only in Unfinished Tales. We know very little about the Battle of the Fords of Isen from The Lord of the Rings itself. But it's fine. They're well within the way that they have they're well within sort of the rights to be able to kind of utilize or have their story of the Fords of Isen be informed by the overall shape of the story that Tolkien outlined in Unfinished Tales without violating the text copyright of Unfinished Tales. That's a totally different thing. So that's a really good example of where LOTRO has chosen to follow a story that is only in Unfinished Tales. But they're not doing that here. Right, with the Drúadan, and I think that's interesting. And I'm down with it. I like it. Now, of the things that I've been kind of, I don't want to say complaining about, things that I say that I don't love the effect that they have on the story from Tolkien's later writings, things like the essay on the Palantir and the discussion of the Elessar. I don't dislike. I do kind of love the stories that we learn about the Drúadan, and I think they're a lot of fun. But I can understand them not wanting to go there, and where they're going with it instead is really interesting. Okay, so hang on. I got now the long delayed morning. I think about the years of anguish the Woses have endured. You relax yourself under the sacred Drûg of Drúbuta. Yep. Okay, I gotta meditate. All right, you meditate, clearing your mind of the conflicts both behind and ahead of you. Yes, we're approaching Battle of Pelennor Field, but I'm going to clear my mind of that. To be here in the moment. I'm going to speak to Khôr-buri-Ghân.
Wild men go through wood by secret paths.
Khôr-buri-Ghân, he was the one who is the narrator, of course. The primary person I've been interacting with in the epic quest line here. That makes perfect sense. Okay, he was the narrator. Khôr-buri-Ghân will take you to horsemen. Go at once. Stone house folk not stand long against Gorgun. Okay. Let's do it. I'm pretty sure... Wait. Ooh, that was close. That was so close. I do have to go back and talk to Ghân-buri-Ghân one more time. Oh, man. Oh, boy. Yeah, that was close. Okay, Ghân-buri-Ghân. I almost forgot to turn in this quest. Yeah, the Drûg will see you remain safe in these woods each time you pass through. You, a kind hobbit. Thanks, man. It's been awesome. Loved it. Loved it. Okay. Phew. Yeah, Phil, I just fortunately noticed that in the nick of time. That's it. Now, totally, completely finished. Totally and completely finished with 10 minutes to spare, and we are headed down. Yeah, I didn't realize I had that whole quest line. I thought I was already almost done, but I was, except for the one quest line. But we finished it, and now, down to the Rohirrim. So... let me see if I can retrace my steps, which is probably inefficient. The path I took was probably inefficient, but that's okay. It got me unerringly where I wanted to go. Don't Rivendell the bridge. That would be an embarrassing conclusion to my time in Drûg. Okay, we're winding through. We're going up. We're going to round the corner and then to the intersection where we take a right. Here we go. Phew, okay. All right, Khôr-buri-Ghân, I'm ready.
Wild men go through wood by secret paths.
Sorry, I'm like double checking my quests. Hang on. Let me actually look at my... Yep, that's it. That is all I've got. Let's do it. And now we are where? Oh, near Nardal. Should I go visit Nardal? They'll probably send me up to Nardal, right? I mean, I've been to Amundine. They'll send me up to Eilenach and Nardal, right? Probably. Okay, there we go. Find the entrance to the Rohirrim encampment west of Eilenach along the road. See you, Khôr-buri-Ghân.
You help horsemen. Wild men help also.
Horsemen camp down Stone Road ahead. Wild men count many thousand horsemen. Go to them. You help. Wild men help also. Love it. And again, this is just another such a fun example of, you know, the that classic LOTRO questline method of expanding, sort of expanding on the Lord of the Rings story, right? Because if you think about it, right, we're given an answer to the question, why do the wild men help, you know, the horsemen, right? Because they recognize them as foes of the Gorgun, and, you know, yes, but, hey, it's Wídfara. Hey there, Wídfara, you're about to play an important role.
Anyway, it's but it's a lovely and very natural expansion to say, okay, yes, they want to help the horsemen. They do see that there's common ground between them, but yet they're a very reclusive people. What would induce them to reach out the way that they do? I mean, for Khôr-buri-Ghân just to waltz into their camp in the way that he does, right? That's taking a significant risk. And so to say, yep, it's all down to the assistance that we have given to them, that's, again, classic LOTRO adaptation, which I love.
You were a long way from the North March.
Sure I am, Wídfara. I did not know you would respond to the muster of Theoden, but I should have, with no question. I know the king will be glad to see you have arrived. I come at the behest of Harding, though the injury I suffered at the hands of Nurzum still pains me. The Aldor gave me a new steed to replace poor Windfoot, and its gait is less gentle than that of my old friend. Still my leg is on the mend. Hang on, help me remember this dude's story. He's given me lots of hints. Okay, so it was in Harding, way in... Okay, so it wasn't in Cliving, it was all the way up in the Wold, right? So Wídfara was traveling with me up there. I don't remember him losing his horse. Was he helping me scout the camps of the Easterlings and fighting Nurzum up there? I could not refuse Harding's command, and would not, even were both my legs wounded as the one. For now the multitude waits for the king to decide our further course. There is some trouble in our way. While the riders wait on his command, you should speak with some of the men. I am certain the spirits of many will be buoyed to see you again. He was in Shilfig. Okay, hang on a second. Maybe the map will help me. Rohan, the Wold. Was it not the Wold? Oh, he's in Wildermore. Oh, right. Of course, Nurzum, the giant, the frost giant, right? And Nurzum at his horse, right? Okay. Up in Shilfig. Sure. Okay, now it's all coming back to me now. All coming back to me now. Gotcha. Excellent. Okay, Wídfara. And of course, I commented on this at the time, right? Wídfara is one of the few, like, rank and file Rohirrim dudes who's named in the Lord of the Rings. Okay. Excellent. I see. Look at that. Oh, did I call it or what? The very first quest is go talk to all these people that you met in all the different parts of Rohan. I knew it. I knew that we would be refreshing old... I'm glad of it. This is just the quest I was most hoping for. Talk to Herobrand, poor Herobrand in the western reach of the encampment. Talk to Fastred in the northeastern reach. Talk to Grimbold. Oh, yeah. Okay, hang on. All right, let me just... Back to Rohan. Okay. I just need to remember... Up in the Stone Deans, right? Woodhurst in Stone Deans. Yeah. And then down in Westfold, right? That's where Grimbold is going to be from Grimslade. Yeah. And then Kingstead, right? That's where Aedoras is, and Dunharrow. Middlemead. Just reminding myself of the names. Stoke, right? Stoke and Broadacres. And poor Torsbury that got destroyed. And then Eoworth and the Entwash Vale, where Horn's dad rules. And then Fastred, of course, is down from Snowbourne. Hard to forget that. And Hootbold of constant memory and Cliving, where we did the murder mystery. Okay. All right, I remember. However, I don't really have time to start this. I should save this. I am the Thane of Hootbold, absolutely. In fact, isn't that still the title that I have? Yeah, I'm still carrying my Thane of Hootbold title. That's the one I'm still proudest of there. Okay. So I'll go around and see folks, because in the course of that, I'm sure I'm going to collect what side quests there are to be collected here, which I can add to my Defeat the Variags quest. And I got to speak with Bregdal. Where's he? Tell you what, let me go find him. That will be the last one I'll do. I'll turn it, because that's a quest that I had from before, so this will be the final element of closure from my time down in the Drúadan section. I'll say hello to the stable master.
I do not know if we will survive this onslaught.
That's the spirit. So I will... It's, what, head... Oh, man. Sorry, I'm laughing because there was actually a clap of thunder from outside. There's like a thunderstorm brewing. And, of course, my son is playing drums thunderously upstairs. So I wasn't sure. I'm like, is that... So here's my poor dog dealing with both the drum set and actual thunder outside as well. So poor Pixie is having herself quite an afternoon. She's a trooper, though. Okay. All right, so let's see if I can find Bregdal, which I could probably have done much faster with a mithril coin, but that's okay. I'm keen to see the layout of the camp, which I will explore more next time. Do that fun... Oh, see, look at all those quest rings. Is that where he is? Yeah, it is where he is. Alright, Dunhera, Guthlaf, Derwina. Bunch of old friends. And Bregdal.
Well, what is it then?
I believe that the Rohirrim have renewed their spirits with the news I brought from Gondor. They now realize that their aid will surely change the tides of victory. There is no way I would be able to return to Gondor by myself, though. Too many enemies stand between here and Pelennor. I shall ride with the Rohirrim, guiding them with what knowledge of the enemy I have. Thank you for your assistance back at the Orc encampment. It is something I shall surely never forget. Hey, you're welcome, man. Yeah, join the Rohirrim. Mr. Errand Rider. Okay, there we go. There's my closure. And now, next time for the reunions. Okay, now speaking of next time, next week I may not be available next week, and I will definitely not be the week after that. So I'm not 100% sure about next week. Next week, we will see. So it'll be, I'll be a day-to-day decision next week, and then the week after that, I'm definitely traveling for Mountain Moot, going to Denver. No, not Mountain Moot, Cascade Moot, going to Portland. That's where I'm going in 2 weeks. So, so I'll be in Portland in 2 weeks. So I may not be back until after that, to the very end of September then. So we'll see. We'll see. But I may be next week. If not next week, then the end of September. But thanks everybody for joining me. Looking forward to the all of the many Rohirrim reunions here. No, Till We Have Faces, actually, that is next week. Because not next week, week after next. Because I'll be able to do that before I leave for Portland, basically. So yeah, our discussion of Till We Have Faces in Mythgard Academy will start on Wednesday, the 20th? 20th. I think that's the number. All right. Thanks, everybody. Druid's Fire's next. See you guys later. Bye now. Thanks for joining in on my rambles around Standing Stone's brilliant digital adaptation of Tolkien's world. If you enjoy these adventures, please consider supporting this and other entertaining educational programming by donating at signumuniversity.org/fund.